I am here with Norma Stewart,
Yeah.
who has been talking to me about her, would you call it a victory garden?
Well, actually, it's just a garden. In the days that the Depression was, it was called a victory garden because you couldn't afford to buy food. It was right after the 29 Depression. My parents got married in 1931. I was born in 1932. And it was so, the money situation was so bad that my parents lived with my grandparents for the first 11 years of their marriage on the same farm with my grandfather.
Wow.
And that was near Postville. Actually, I graduated from Postville High School 70 years ago in May 1950. And I've lived here 40 years. We moved here in 1980, and the White House over there belonged to my in-laws, Alfred and Florence Stewart.
Next to where
That White House right
this
there.
direction.
Yeah. I think they moved there in 1939, and when I couldn't find a house in town, they offered us the land. They said, we might need your help. And so we did work with them for about 15 or 20 years when they were older.
Can you explain why the rationing was done?
Well, so everybody would have the same opportunity to get the same food. See, if you had lots of money, it didn't do you any good if you didn't have a stamp. Whatever the food item was that you had the stamp for that was really hard to get or find, you had to have the stamp.
And what kind of things were rationed?
Well, sugar was one high on them thing, you know. I think coffee was another one. There was a bunch of items, but I just do remember sugar because a lot of people began buying sorghum. And there used to be a sorghum manufacturing place north of Claremont near Governor Larrabee's house. The sorghum were stocked, and I remember seeing it being done. My dad took me to the sorghum factory. They cut the stalks and fed them through a press. Burn and burn until it turned brown and began to sugar. Now, if you've ever made candy, like fudge, there's a point when you make fudge that you don't want to stir it anymore. If you stir it too long, it sugars on it. Right?
Okay.
Okay, well, when they cooked this, they kept temperatures of it. When it all hit a certain temperature, then they took it out of the pan and ran it through another process. So a lot of people began to buy jars of sorghum, so you will see recipes that call for sorghum. And they figured out how much sorghum to use for the amount of sugar the recipe called. In 44, I would have been about 6th grade. So I was in some of those early years, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, when we were around for that sort of thing, and even into the junior high. And I'm not sure when Claremont quit doing it, but they took that all down, and north of Claremont there is kind of a Thrasher's, it's kind of a park for people to come. See, at one point, years ago, my mom and dad bought a small acreage, and even in their later years, we used to dress ducks and geese and chickens, and we sold them for money. See, that was one of our other incomes. And
You dressed them? Excuse me?
yeah, I dressed them. You have to chop the head off. Have you ever done that?
No.
Well, you get a
I'm a
block
city
of
kid.
wood and you put 2 nails in the wood and you hold the chicken's feet and wings, and one person holds them while the other one chops the head off, and then you let it go because it has to die.
Right.
And then you have to get all the feathers off of it. And you pluck all that off. Then you got to cut it open, and you got to take the insides out. And there is a bile that comes bile duct, you know. And you hit that and break it open, and the chicken, it destroys the meat. It's bitter. Very bitter.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So we used to have to do that when I was a kid, help dress chickens.
Was that for a specific plant company? Was it a company that you worked for, or?
No, it was a home company.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
my dad and mom used to sell their chickens. They'd raise a flock of chickens, and they get a couple years old, and then you kill some off, and you're bringing some in when you raise chickens. That was one of our jobs as a kid. One was to stack wood, carry water to the kitchen stove reservoir and double boiler for washing clothes, and the other one was to clean the chicken coop. For three of us kids, my brother lives here in Oelwein, and he was a policeman for years.
What's your
My
brother's
sister
name?
and Alvin. He's the oldest. Even though I wasn't a boy, I ended up out in the barn with my dad, helping him. If nothing else, just to put grain on top of feed, ground feed for the cows. You were little, and you could carry a small pail. So you put the dressing, so to speak, on the silage. Well, then later, you had to go up when you're bigger, and you're throwing the silage down the chute. And you're then carrying the silage and putting it all together yourself. And then when I got done with that, I was sent back in the house, and I worked with my grandmother and my mother making meals. So you got it both places as the oldest. And then my brother was old enough, and he went out, then I did less outside and more inside. So, and we were in 4-H for years, like 10 to 21 I was in 4-H. So I had 3 years of sewing, 3 years of home furnishing, and 3 years of cooking. Rotated.